L120 series actuator startup instructions for gear limit switch settings. Tape number 1. The gear limit switch has been a distinguishing feature of Limitorque's actuators from the original design to current models. The gearing is designed around the odometer principle, which counts the actuator's output revolutions required for full valve travel, regardless of valve type, size, or travel. Because of this gearing principle, switch set points are accurate and repeatable. The L120 series limit switch consists of 4 gear trains, each capable of independent set points. Each of the 4 gear trains controls 4 separate electrical contacts for a total of 16 contacts. 1 gear train normally controls valve open direction, and 1 gear train normally controls valve closed direction. Each gear train is connected to a 4-cam rotor shaft, which actuates 2 normally open and 2 normally closed contacts. Each gear train is independently adjustable to trip switch contacts at any desired point of valve travel or at the extreme ends of valve travel. The additional 2 gear trains are provided for interlocking with other valve actuators or equipment such as pumps, fans, or compressors. The switch's main drive gear is connected to the output drive sleeve of the L120 10, 20, and 40 series. It is connected to the worm shaft of the L120 80 and larger units. The gear limit switch is engaged whether in motor or hand-wheel drive. This gear limit switch is typical of the main drive gear arrangement for the L120 80 through the 2000 size actuators. Each contact position is affected by the position of the rotor cams. When the contacts are open, the cams are in this position. When the contact is closed, the cam is in this position. On the switch itself, note that these first 2 rotor cams indicate that the contacts are electrically open, and the 2 back cams indicate that these 2 contacts are closed. I am holding 1 set of switch contacts. Note that when the rotor cam has depressed the contact plunger, the contact is closed. When the cam is in the opposite position, the contact is open. On the left is a closed contact, and on the right is an open contact. All switch contacts are made of heavy inlaid silver rated for 600 volts and are enclosed. This represents 1 set of contacts. 4 contacts are stacked together to provide the necessary number of contacts to control the valve in both the open and closed direction. The rotor cam segments can be separated and rotated 90 degrees to give various combinations of normally open or normally closed contacts for each rotor to suit customers' special requirements. This can be accomplished by first removing the end plates and repositioning the cams as desired on the drive shaft. End plates must then be replaced. This is a cutaway of a standard L120 gear limit switch provided with a hand wheel in lieu of a primary drive pinion to facilitate operation of this model. This cutaway shows the internal drive gearing. 2 sets of contacts have been removed to better see the internal construction and operation. This clearly shows the arrangement of the counter gears and secondary drive pinions. The first counter gear is the only one pinned to the primary gear shaft. Note the little bronze secondary pinion, which is the last gear in the train. This pinion is connected to the cam rotor shaft. As this gear rotates, it causes cam rotor rotation and changes a switch contact position. To change contact position, external rotation of the counter gear shaft is required to set the contacts to a desired position. This cannot be accomplished without first releasing all gear trains. This is accomplished by pushing in and rotating the clutch screw 1/4 turn in a clockwise direction. Note the movement of the internal gear, which disengages all the counter gear trains, allowing adjustment of each gear train to be made externally. Note the rotation of the cam rotor shaft, indicating that 2 contacts have closed and 2 contacts have opened. Before moving the hand wheel or applying motor power and to secure the setting, it is necessary to turn the clutch screw 1/4 turn counterclockwise and wiggle each gear train slightly. This action assures all gear trains are engaged with the main drive pinion. The same procedure is used to set all cam rotor shafts. Caution: the gear limit switch is not preset at the factory. All switches must be adjusted after the actuator is mounted on its associated equipment and before the unit is operated. This is an L120 Limitorque actuator. It is mounted on a double disc parallel seat gate valve. To power this actuator, we have provided a separate control compartment, which includes a power transformer, a reversing contactor, push-button control station, and indicating lights. Caution: before removing the limit switch compartment cover or control compartment covers, make sure all power is turned off and locked out. Observe all warning tags. To determine which contacts are wired for full close and full open positions of valve travel, check the certified wiring diagram furnished with the actuator. The wiring diagram furnished with all actuators will show an optional jumper for torque-seated valves with a note to that effect. This typical schematic diagram shows wiring for position-seated valve stop in both the open and closed directions by limit switch number 4 and limit switch number 8 respectively. This is the wiring requirement for this double disc parallel seat gate valve on which our actuator is mounted. For torque-seated valves, the closed limit switch number 8 must be adjusted to open just before the torque switch, which controls the valve seating position in the closed direction. Torque seating is used on wedge gate valves and globe valves to provide tight seating because of the wedging action design of the valve discs and seats. This also compensates for any wear that may occur on the valve disc and seats and ensures tight shutoff of the valve. Tags on the side of the limit switch identify all contacts by number. We use number 8 normally closed contact as the closed limit and number 4 normally closed contact as the open limit. Number 7 normally closed contact and number 3 normally closed contact are light connections to indicate position of the valve. Number 6 normally open contact and number 2 normally open contact are spares. Number 5 normally open contact and number 1 normally open contact are momentary startup bypasses around the torque switches. This arrangement prevents momentary trip on startup in either direction of valve travel. It also provides circuitry for proper valve position light indication. Caution: since most Limitorque motors are dual voltage, it is important to make sure that the motor is wired for the proper voltage. All dual voltage motors have a voltage connection wiring diagram affixed to them. Limitorque motors are reversing type and must also be checked to make sure that rotation is in phase with the control circuit. Hand crank the valve to an approximate mid-position and actuate push-button controls for short travel in both directions to check for correct movement of the valve. This will allow time for power shutoff to prevent stalling the motor or damaging the valve if the motor phasing is incorrect. We are now prepared to set the closed number 8 limit switch. Caution: turn off all power. Put the unit in manual mode and hand crank the valve to a full closed position. In order to allow for motor coast, back the valve off the seat approximately 2 or 3 handwheel turns. For proper setting, an observation must first be made of the direction of rotation of this cross-hatched gear train shaft and number 8 rotor cam position. While cranking the valve toward the closed position, note that the gear shaft is turning clockwise. Push and rotate the clutch screw clockwise 1/4 turn to disengage the gear train. Set number 8 contact limit in accordance with the following instructions. Insert a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver into the cross-hatched gear shaft. If the switch contact is not open, turn the shaft in a clockwise direction or same direction as noted when hand cranking the valve in that direction until the contact opens. The limit switch is set to open and will stop the valve in the full closed position. If the contact was already open, turn the cross-hatched gear train shaft in the opposite direction until the contact closes. Then reverse the rotation of the shaft until contact opens. The switch is now set. Immediately release the clutch screw, rotate it 1/4 turn counterclockwise, and make certain all 4 gear trains are locked in. To set the open limit switch, hand crank the valve to its full open position and repeat the procedures. The same procedure should be followed in setting all 4 sets of contacts. Turn the power on, run the valve to mid-travel to make sure that everything is functionally correct, including push-button controls and indicating lights. Then run the valve through several complete power cycles to double-check the limit switch functions. When using a variable speed reversible power drill to set limit switches, do not run the drill full speed. 100 to 200 RPM is maximum speed recommended. Jogging the power drill will provide better control and approach to the desired limit switch set point. Turn off the power, replace and secure all covers, and then turn the power back on. The actuator is ready for full operation. However, if you need complete written instructions, refer to Limitorque Service Manuals number 120-11,000 or 120-12,000. If you have any additional questions, give Limitorque a call. Refer to tape number 2 of this series for torque switch setting instructions.